the
You
intro.
have taste in a way that's meaningful to software people.
Hello, I'm Bill Gates.
I would recommend TypeScript. Yeah, it writes a lot of code for me, and usually it's slightly wrong.
I'm reminded, incidentally, of Rust here.
Rust.
This almost makes me happy that I didn't become a supermodel.
Kuber and Netties.
Well, I'm sorry, guys. I don't know what's going on.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you today about large neural networks. It's really an honor to be here.
Rust.
DataTopics. Welcome to the
DataTopics podcast.
Hello and welcome to DataTopics Unplugged, your casual corner of the web where we discuss what's new in data every week, from Raspberry Pis to Meta, anything goes. We're on live streaming on YouTube, LinkedIn, X, Twitch, you name it, we're there. Check us out there. Feel free to leave your comment or question. We'll do our best to address it during the recording. Hang out with us. Today is the 4th of June. 4th of June of 2024. My name is Murillo. I'll be hosting you today, joined by the one and only Bart.
Hi.
Alex is back. Woohoo!
Hello.
Hey, Alex. And we have a very special guest with us. We have Christoph. Christoph?
Yes.
Is that how you're... Is this... How would you...
Christoph?
Christoph?
Yeah.
Okay. Christoph is a team lead at the Data and Cloud business unit. We already discussed what kind of actor he looks like. Bart, you said, what's the name of the guy? David?
I think he looks a bit like David Hasselhoff.
Yes. So the people following just on the audio, it looks exactly like a spitting image of David Hasselhoff. Plus the six packs, plus more six packs.
These are his words, eh?
His words. Yeah, he says exactly the same. So more of a reason to check us out at the live stream afterwards. And I already apologize in advance. I am recovering from illness. So if you notice something weird with my voice, it's because it is weird. But I don't think I'm contagious. I did a COVID test. It was negative. So good guys.
It's not just COVID that is contagious. You realize this, right?
Yeah, but like I think isn't there like you also maybe fun fact, huh? Maybe the fun fact. All right, I'll start the episode today with a fun fact. Bart, you have a dark past, don't you? No, you know where I was going.
I do. Yeah.
I like how I didn't even say Bart, and he was already like, no. You mentioned that you had this very insightful point that not only COVID is contagious, right? And
True.
Man, you must know a lot about. Do you have a background or anything?
I studied healthcare economics.
Oh, really? Did you ever like anything else, like more hands-on or no?
Maybe a bit, but it is true. Not just COVID is contagious.
Maybe I have a question for you. Like maybe so. This is a legitimate question. Like there is a period in which you're contagious, but after a while, like even if you're, I guess I don't know. Maybe this is a myth, right? But I heard that even if you are exhibiting some symptoms, how contagious you are decreases a lot. Is that true? I'm asking you because of your background.
I have no comment.
Okay, all right.
Refrain from comment.
If next week everyone is sick here, it's my fault. I'm just too professional, I was like, nah, man. It's like, I'll be there. The listeners, our fan base is waiting. All our followers here, they're dying to see us. So no, I'll be there. So here I am for you guys, so you know. But Christoph, enough about me. Tell us more about yourself.
Yeah, you just already did my intro. So basically, I'm the new team lead in the data and cloud units, responsible for the energy and manufacturing. I am an engineer in IT by background. 28 tomorrow. So that's a fun fact.
Oh, wow. Can we get an applause for the birthday? 28.
Yeah.
28.
And yesterday I celebrated my first year of marriage.
Oh, wow.
Can we get another round of applause?
Yeah. Party week.
Wow.
Yeah.
Did you do this on purpose so like you have one party for both and like save a bit of money and stuff, or is this like strategic or?
It was strategic. Waiting for the sun a bit.
Yeah, you're like maybe okay, let's do it there. Yeah, very cool. Congrats.
I planned it 28 years ago.
Wow, like one day. Okay, Congrats. Any big plans for tomorrow?
No. It's Wednesday, so
Yeah, that's true.
I have to work.
Yeah, actually, I heard from someone from Daters that they said, "Oh, I don't know the last time I worked when it was my birthday." Like I was like, "Oh yeah, today's my birthday," and I said, "Oh, you work on your birthday?" I was like, "Yeah." "Oh, I don't know the last time I worked on my birthday." I said, "Okay, bro." Like, it was a bit. He was very strong opinionated about this, but let's have you with us. So I'll try to be at the office. I know there's a bit of a tradition in Belgium to bring coffee cookers.
I'm not coming to the office.
I won't be here then.
Smart enough.
Something just came up. I can't be here. So, but cool. And what do we have here today already? I see here Meta identifies networks for pushing deceptive content likely generated by AI. What is this about?
Yeah. So it's basically the first time since the release in late 2022 that there is a report of deceptive content generated by AI. It was basically used for praising Israel's handling in the war in Gaza. So it's used for like political disinformation campaigns, but it's also can be used for fake news in general. They are a bit scared that there are some possibilities, especially for example in Belgium right now with the with the votes coming up, that they're going to use it to sway political elections. So security executives of Meta also said that the generation part is not good enough to be undetected, but I believe that there's going to be a time that it will be very, very difficult to have it detected, and it brings some significant issues.
For deceptive content, you mean?
Yeah, deceptive content, because like Meta is a huge part of everybody's life, social networks in general, and they can, for example, if you would, maybe like a fake picture of you, and it's like when it's fake and it's not you did something wrong, and it's put out on social network, can't stop it. People will take actions maybe against it.
Yeah.
Okay, we're not super important, but imagine that for like political persons, like the video of Obama was like saying a lot of stuff, and it wasn't really him or Donald Trump. It's like all fake, generated.
Would you consider, a bit of a side question, would you consider Slack as a bit of a social network?
No, as long as it's internal, not really, no. And I don't think you can do public stuff in Slack.
No, because if you consider that, then I would say I was a victim of the deepfakes generated by Bart. So I will put myself in the victim category, but if not, we can move on.
But I get a notification that apparently Marilo and Christophe are hard to hear. I'm not sure. Maybe turn them all up.
All of them?
Also the number 3. Yeah.
I'll sit a bit
like
closer.
this. Yeah.
Maybe you can also move your mic a bit closer.
I think that will be better, yeah.
Yeah, if you put a bit like...
Speak a little softer as well.
No, but maybe on this...
Do you want to see the deepfake voice Marilo in action?
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
I feel like it wasn't an invitation, but I feel like...
What do you want to say?
What do I want to say?
Yeah. Or do you want to put music under it?
I'll let you take your imagination, let it go wild.
I'm just thinking...
Because I feel like if I give you guidance, then I cannot complain that you did it, So I feel like I'll let you do it and then I'll criticize you after.
Okay. I think the problem is with the music under it. Like it's maybe not the most SFW content. You see what I mean?
Yeah, I see. I know what you're saying.
I'm gonna quickly play it, okay?
But like, take your kids out of the room.
Yeah, take your kids out of the room. But I'm gonna just see towards Alex to see if you see something moving on our equalizer. That means that people will hear it. You know? No?
I know the song, but...
How can I be homophobic? My bitch is gay. Hit man in a top try, see my top load, see when the snake is gay. Hugging my brothers and say that I love them, but I don't swing that way.
What can I say?
The man them celebrate Eid, the trap still running on Christmas Day.
Wow.
See?
Yeah. I would think it's real, to be honest.
But it's to illustrate a bit the danger of deepfake. So this is trained on like literally like half a minute of Murillo speaking,
And not even
And you
good
get-
quality, right?
and not good quality, and you get this where you still distinguish like it's not really Murillo, but it's alike. But like, just imagine this 2 years from now. This is
mean,
going to be a big problem.
Arguably, if you had put a bit more...
We'll have Murillo rapping over everything.
Man, what a...
2 years from now.
Can't wait. Can't wait for that day. But arguably as well, if you had put more effort into it, right? And like find nice samples.
If
and
I
all
would
these
have
things.
used like half an hour of audio quality, it would be very good already today.
And I also think that if you are trying to do a song, it's also going to be more noticeable, right? If it's just a speech, I think it's just talking,
True.
right? So I also think it's a harder target to when you're looking at like lyrics of music and all these things, right? And
Or just generating new music with the voices of real artists. It's also a big topic.
Oh yeah, Bart. That's Bart's second to favorite topic. No, generating AI generated music with from rap artists like Drake and all these people.
Murillo.
Really, but it is like it's a big problem. Man. Like you say these Facebook discovered networks, but like what kind of networks are we talking about? Like political networks?
Oh no, like just general. So this content was based on social networks, but yeah, a lot of.
I like that social.
Yeah, if you look at
in general,
Facebook or Instagram, you get a lot of marketing about specific politics, for example, in Belgium right now.
But the question is a bit like if it's deceptive content. Like, I think that the problem is not necessarily the deceptive content. Like fake news will always be there, but like GenAI like accelerates this. Like the amount of content you can generate, which very much looks authentic, written by someone,
Especially
is
if
at a
it's
different
visual.
scale.
If it's visual and it looks real, it's often to be
Yeah.
thought a bit to be
Yeah,
real.
Yeah, that's a good point. I was thinking about text messages, but indeed, like.
So I was just wondering, like, what's the role of social networks in this? Because they get like this responsibility. With great power comes great responsibility, kind of thing. But yeah, I think they need to do something about it, and they're already trying to do stuff about it, but still,
it's a very hard problem to solve. It is,
Yeah, and then, but I think again, I remember the thing. I think in the U.S. election, and they were saying there were Russian bots and stuff, and this was before GenAI, right? But there was already an opportunity for people to leverage these networks. And I mean, I'm not super into it, right? But I have heard like interviews and podcasts and whatnot that they were saying like they would create fake profiles and sometimes they would reuse those profiles for other things once it didn't click, or they would organize events from two extreme opposite groups just to kind of create friction, and create conflict. So I think there is already like the social networks was already a venue for misinformation and all these things, right? But I also feel like with GenAI, indeed, then you just kind of magnify this.
yeah, they say it's
different
their
scale.
first report in since 2022, but still.
And Meta is saying like they want to like they identify this, but now they are they mitigating this somehow? Are they investing this heavily on this?
So they did mitigate several risks. So they are working on it, but I don't know how far it is completely automated, to be honest. So probably not.
But also, how can even if it's not automated, right? Like how can you even yourself as a human, right, without
knowledge?
Yeah, like how can you discern these things? Do you feel like we're gonna get to a place where this is completely indistinguishable?
Yeah. Well, completely is hard to say, but like close to completely.
And what do you think we can do once we get to that?
To be honest, that's the
game over.
Yeah. Enough of social networks. No, I don't know. And like Facebook, for example, or Meta in general, I think they really do their best to fix these issues. But that doesn't solve other issues, like if you would to send out propaganda in another country. Yeah, and that's not monitored by Meta, for example. And it's I'm not going to go into detail about politics too much. But if, for example, in a country where you want to create like a hate towards a certain group, you just release several videos of that group doing things that will target your group. And
And I think, I see what you're
And
saying.
visuals is really, really hard, like I said. Like text is something like you could say, okay, maybe did he really do that? But yeah, if governments will use it, then it's super scary.
Yeah, indeed. I think, and do you think that for video, I don't know if we're there already, that we have videos that are so convincing that people will really...
No, not yet. You see the difference.
Yeah.
But it's getting harder.
Yeah, I think the tendency is just to keep getting harder and harder, right? But
it's up to us to create good AI models that can detect it.
yeah, and I think right now the solution also is like a bit, okay, the things you're leveraging on the hands of Meta and whatnot, but I think it's also a bit, should we just leverage on them, right? Is it just that...
Who else is going to do it?
Yeah, but like I think it's also like, should we just depend on them to really make the things work, you know? Because I feel like right now we're saying, okay, Meta is the only one that can kind of save us, which also is not a very good prospect, right?
No, because who controls Meta?
Indeed, huh? So I feel like it's very centralized, these things. All right, 1 second, we're
changing the infrastructure.
Yeah, we're debugging. Alrighty. I got it. Alrighty, maybe moving on to another topic, maybe a more positive use of GenAI.
Depends how you look on it.
Depends how you look on it, right? Klarna using GenAI to cut marketing costs by 10 million annually. Alex, don't worry about it. We're not there yet. I'm kidding, of course. But what is this about?
So basically, Klarna is using GenAI, for example, Midjourney, DALL-E, Firefly, to generate content that replaces the need for production teams, photographers, models, just sets in general. So basically they update all of their images for occasion, like special events for Mother's Day, Valentine's Day. So they just use it using the technology. They already generated more than 1,000 pictures in the first quarter of 2024. And they reduced the development cycle for their marketing purposes from 6 weeks to 7 days, which is insanely fast.
Yeah, it's crazy.
What is Klarna, for the people that don't know?
Payments.
Online payments.
Yes.
And this is purely like GenAI, but it's images.
Yeah, mostly images. They also use GenAI and other stuff. For example, they are now partnering up with OpenAI for their AI assistant for customer service, which will have the power of the same work equivalent of 700 full-time agents. Meaning that, okay, what will they do? Will they fire those 700 people and replace it completely?
So then I guess in both cases, actually, in a way, we are cutting jobs or employees, right? Because we're saying models.
We're shifting jobs.
But this sounds to me also like a very, very big number.
10 million?
Marketing. So what I can really follow is like to come with a first concept, like a mood board, like this is the direction that we want to take. Like something like Midjourney or DALL-E, like very much helps. So like I'm thinking about this, give me some first sketches, and then you will still probably have someone manually that actually brings it together into a marketing campaign.
But okay, in the complete like workflow, somebody will still need to intervene, and you still need to creative thought because like the Gen AI, it's limited to what it knows, so it still needs input from a human to be creative, I believe.
But I think it's like, from what I understood, a lot of these 10 million is like photographers and models and costumes and all these things.
But that's like a lot, I mean, but indeed, like it's too cut. Like this is the forecast. Like this is also a bit of a hype. 10 million is a lot.
Yeah, that's what they say.
But aside from the number, I do agree. Like the preparatory stages, like the first phases, coming to a first concept for something visual, like accelerates very quickly.
Yeah.
With the technology that we already have today, I would argue that the technology that we have today is not ready for the end result.
No, I would agree.
I think what we've seen on a lot of social platforms is a lot of Gen AI generated images, and today there's very much a fatigue and cringe factor when anyone posts Gen AI generated images. I don't think it's good for a brand today to post Gen AI generated images.
Why do you think that is? Do you think it's because it doesn't look good? Like, why is it cringe today? Like, if it was like, if it was really, I mean,
because it is clearly like there is no authenticity here. Think what we have today. I think for today you can very, very visually see this is not something that was done by an artist. And I agree. Like if you have something that is an end result, that to get to that end result, the preparation towards that, like Gen AI can very quickly, very much accelerate and make them much more efficient. I think for branding around visual concepts, I think the end result, like you need that human touch today.
Yeah, I think you need like but it is, to me, it's analogous to text that you need a tone, right? Like you need to have like a coherent, like you don't want to do just random stuff.
I think there's a good parallel indeed to.
But like they mentioned, like it's not that development cycle is completely gone. It's not like it's a half an hour job. It's still 6 days, so it does require some thought and like validation and all that kind of stuff. But still, it's 6 weeks to 7. What did I say? 6 weeks to 7 days.
But that I can understand. Yeah.
Yeah, because I'm still. I mean, I'm thinking of, instead of you posing people and you take a lot of pictures and you have to hire models, you have to get the costumes, you have to book the venue, you have to do this. Maybe you have some Gen AI. I mean, hypothetically, I'm not sure if we're there, but you have some Gen AI images. And then you still do the editing, you still do this, you still do that to kind of get what you want, right? And I still think that even using a system like this would still be way cheaper, right? Because the amount of people that you don't have to...
Exactly, yeah.
You know, the pay and the renting the venue and all these things is probably going to cut down a lot, and it's going to make much faster as well, right? Because one thing that, like, and then I agree with you, like if you have an idea and you want to sketch it out and see how it looks before really going forward with it, I think the Gen AI is also much faster, right? Like, try it out, yeah, that's not what I wanted. Okay, let's try that. Oh yeah, okay, that's not what I wanted. And then you can also cut down the time quite a lot. Right?
Yeah.
So,
and the same when it comes to text, like putting in interesting text on socials. And
not only that, they say they also save money on translations.
Yeah, can imagine.
Like they don't need to hire a team that does it. So, yeah.
Good point.
So,
but then translations for Klarna is like they're like the chatbot kind of thing, or what do you mean by?
Or like a message to put out on your socials on all different.
But then,
channels,
so they're saying
languages, locales.
But then they don't they don't spend in translation, because before, when it was like, what's the difference? I guess that's what
you have to pay a translator versus just running it through OpenAI.
But you could Google Translate stuff, right? Or DeepL,
no, but it definitely wasn't up to the same level. It was not ready to be read by someone.
But then to me, it's like Gen AI is just it's a translator. It's a good translator, right?
It's a text generator.
It's a very good translator.
Yeah. But like if Google Translate or DeepL or whatever, it was really good, then there would be no difference, right?
No, but there is a huge difference, because it's definitely not as good.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Cool. Anything else on this one before we move on?
What do you think the future of the creative space looks like?
Hot part?
No, I'm just...
What do I think? So I had some... For music, I think that's the one that I thought. This is the one that I thought the most
because
about.
of you're aspiring to be a rapper, right?
I thought you were going to mention Taylor Swift. No, but actually I did talk to Alex a bit about this outside the podcast as well. That as Gen AI becomes better and better, and there is Gen AI music, right? I still feel like there will always be a space for human artists. Because I do feel like a big part of music is like you relate what the artist is saying, is feeling. And I think if it's just Gen AI, then even if it's the right words, you know that it wasn't someone that really went through it. I think it's not as relatable. It's kind of like when you watch a movie and you just watch a sad movie and okay, but then you watch a movie and it's like, oh, based on a true story, right? And I feel like it has a different touch to it because it's more relatable, it's real. And I think that will always be there. Like the human need to connect, to really, so like, oh, I know what you like, oh, you went through a heartbreak, I know what you've been through and this and that, I feel like that would always be there. So I think that maybe they may coexist, but I think for music there would always be a space for human generated songs.
I think it's the same. Like music has changed over the years. And it's the same with the creativity of like creating the marketing campaigns. You need to be creative, and again, GenAI is a tool, but it's not creative. It's limited to what it knows. Music changes.
But then I
things
have
change.
a counterpoint there, like, because we're saying creativity, right? But I don't know, like if I have a model that takes all the songs from Mozart and then it creates a new one based on all these songs.
Okay, do that 10 times.
GenAI could do it, I think.
Yeah, it will do it 10 times, but 10 times will probably get most of the same answers.
Maybe not, but I think it's like, but I guess my thing is more, if I take 5 things that I know and I mix them in a unique way, am I being creative?
Which is basically what every artist is doing, huh?
And that's the thing is like
without GenAI, like this is what you're doing. Like you like a certain genre, you like certain methods, and typically you didn't just crawl out of a cave and discover the others yourself, right? But you're inspired by others around you.
Yeah, indeed. But I think even if you're very like, okay, you have these 100 songs and you can only mix them in a way to create a new one. Like even if it's really that constrained.
Yeah.
Would you say that that's creativity? I would say yes. And I feel like in the same way that maybe that's what a model is doing, kind of, right?
The model is fixed. Like when you train to create a fixed model, it's that just if the input changes, the output will change.
Yeah, but I guess it's like if you add some randomness to it, right? Like you always run some random noise and then the outputs are going to be different.
Yeah.
Right? And I feel like that random noise combined with the patterns that you have before will come up with something new that will be a combination of things.
But then it will still need the creativity of the person. Well, no.
But that's the thing.
Randomness a little less, but you still need to have the creativity and like people who validate it.
Yeah, I think like being creative and being good, I think they're different things. Huh? Actually, I even heard like.
And I think that will be the difference, like being good as an artist versus being in a creative space. I think humans, with all this happening, is that we will value true talent more.
Like
featured by a real human.
0% GenAI, you know, it's like this.
Like I think we will value authenticity more, but at the same time, true talent, and that for them, there's maybe even a higher willingness to pay for their output than there is today.
Kind of like with chess.
But for all the other ones, like it's if today you were involved in the preparation of creating a mood board for Klarna's next marketing campaign, it's a very uncertain future. Huh?
Yeah, true.
But you touched a really good point. Like, it will be, if you would generate all of your music using GenAI tools, for example, you will have more budget remain because you don't need the entire production to like, and production time as well. That costs a lot of money. So you will have more. You will have more money available for like your marketing campaigns, and so you will. And real humans can't compete with that because they just have less budget, or they need to be extremely good to stand out.
Or be extremely good, yeah.
Yeah, and I think this is the case.
But I think at the same time, how you describe it, you will use GenAI as a tool, and like everybody will have to learn to use it as a tool to some extent.
That's what they always say. It's like, will AI make you lose your job? No, that's only for the people who don't use it.
Let's see in 10 years, huh?
But I think a lot of like we're talking about creativity and marketing, right? But if you said the same thing about programming, it's the same, right?
Yeah.
Like it gets 90% of your code done. On the 10%, you need to really be there, but it still gets 90% done.
Yeah, it's
still a tool.
Did
like
you see how's it called? The tool, the software tool that was like
Devin?
Yeah. I was in the beginning. I was like, oh snap. But again, a lot of people. Then there was a huge discussion. Regarding this topic, like. Yeah,
like we discussed this a few times as well here. I think it's like there's always it's an interesting discussion, right? But in the end of the day, we still have our place, right? Like it's not fully replacing us.
Hope so.
Well, for now. Yeah. Okay, to move on to the next topic.
Sure.
Maybe we can just go here on the list here, right? More on AI. I think last week, we speculated that OpenAI and Apple were going to do a deal.
I think the week before, but yeah, it's been in the rumor mill for a while now.
Yes, and I think now all the rumors have become more concrete. Is this
Yes.
Apple and OpenAI have signed a deal to partner on AI? What is this about, Bart? What is the deal?
Well, we don't know the exact contents. We know that there was a deal signed between Apple and OpenAI, which basically allows Apple to integrate OpenAI's generative AI technologies, because even they're not very specific, is it text, is it images, into their services. And
Just services.
into their services. Nothing very specific. We know that there are some rumors that there was a lot of internal opposition within Apple from John Giannandrea. I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly.
I don't think you are.
Who very much opposes using large language model-driven chatbots in Apple's products. Has been vocal on it for a while by
But did
now.
he say why? And this is that's a hot take, no? You don't want to use LLMs for chatbots.
Yeah, to be honest, I don't know his exact rationale. I can imagine. So, trying to put myself on his feet. Like, I think Apple tries to have a very strong control over the user experience to make sure it's a very good user experience, which is by default a bit difficult when you work with something that is probabilistic, and you
have less control.
You more or less think it's going to be good enough, but it's hard to test all edge cases.
They already use Siri, and they own Siri. I hope they use it to improve Siri, because you said
Same.
customer experience, but like Siri is not the best customer experience at the moment. So
it was when we were discussing this when it was in the rumor mill. Siri is indeed like the one that we brought up a lot. I think Siri can improve. Huh?
Yeah. I also saw in the article that they may use it for their search engines as well. Maybe even like your internal search engines for like on your iPhone when you're searching for stuff, cross document, all of that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Cool.
I think, I think everybody hopes it also a little bit is that Apple will, if they build it do this as to really build significant features, is that there remains that there's still some independence. We know that there are some rumors that Apple is building internal LLM capabilities, and that this is a bit an accelerator in that to get them started on these things, and then at some point switch to their own capabilities.
Doing what they do well. See stuff, and a few years later in the new jackets.
But there's also the question on what does this mean for the Siri team at Apple, right? Like if they are seeking externally for these things, then do they still have a Siri team?
Well, I think Siri is really a project, and this is a tool in that project, right?
But then it's like, should they be working on how to integrate this tool better, or to become part of their product, or do you think they're gonna? Because today's Siri is a separate thing. It's a separate track computing. It's completely independent from the OpenAI models and all the things, right?
Mm-hmm.
So are they going to continue it to separate tracks? I think, for example, if you work for Siri, you're a Siri engineer, and then you hear about this deal. How do you feel about it, right?
You can look at it optimistic and pessimistic. I think the optimistic view is really cool. I can now also use these tools to improve Siri.
Yeah, I guess to me is what I have a bit of a hard time is like to use these tools to improve Siri, but to me the tool is Siri. Like it's the same, like it's replacing. Like I don't see how would you use one to improve the other, right? Like
no, but Siri is much more. Siri is also all the actions that happen when you give an instruction. You're just thinking about the voice to text and interpreting that. But there's much more happening than that. Huh?
That's true. That's true.
And I think one of the questions that Microsoft probably has is, what does this mean for us? Like they've very much leveraged their OpenAI partnership within the community within their placement. Apple is to some extent a competitor for Microsoft. This raises some questions, of course. Like they used to have an exclusive partnership. Apple is also apparently exploring similar deals with partners like Google. So it's also not from them. It's not a unique stance, or not an exclusive partnership with OpenAI. So let's see where it gets us.
Indeed.
I think it's to me the most exciting thing would be if next month I use Siri and it actually understands me at the first go.
True.
In other words, I'll be really excited if I use Siri and it works.
Yeah,
You
exactly.
know? Like, if it does what it's supposed to do.
But what I sometimes wonder with Siri is like people in the US, native speakers, but are they have less of a problem than me in Dutch?
Yeah, I think so, because Dutch, I heard it, I haven't trained any model in Dutch, like for production use cases, but Dutch is really hard to train because there's way less materials available, especially Flemish, because that's not Dutch as well.
Yeah, we actually had someone that was a researcher that they released fine-tune models for Dutch, and they have quite a lot of work, and even the tokenizers and how you're going to split words and all these things, that's all.
And then there's a lot of dialects.
And
So we have Christofje, for example. he doesn't know how to speak the G in Dutch.
He doesn't know. Okay, noted.
He's from Ghent.
I'm limited by my capability. The H is becoming difficult, as I live in West Flanders as well, so I'm losing some letters of the alphabet.
Good thing this podcast is in English. Right? But when you talk to Siri, you talked in Dutch.
Typically I do, yeah.
Yeah. But do you actually try? But
I think when I speak in English, it's even worse.
I can understand.
Because of your accent.
Yeah, I think so.
Interesting. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like I'll be. In my opinion, right, it should still be good enough. I know there is a difference, but it should still be good enough too.
Yeah. What is super annoying with Siri is that like non-Dutch names, like it doesn't know how to pronounce it. So you need to like read them up literally, like how it's as if it would be a Dutch word, but it's not.
Like Dutch Siri doesn't know how to pronounce non-Dutch names.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but that's. I mean, yeah, but that I expected. Yeah. Like my name is Murillo. I mean, that's not how you would say it in Portuguese, right? In Brazil.
So, for example, Gauthier, French name.
Yeah.
If I want to call him via Siri, I need to say, "Please call Gauthier."
Gauthier.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Otherwise, it doesn't know who I'm referring to.
Yeah, but yeah. Siri. But how would you? What would you? It's tricky, huh?
No, it's not tricky. Like when I use OpenAI's voice mode, it understands it.
You say Gauthier and it's fine.
Yeah.
I think it's different because I'm not sure. It's just speculation, but like probably the first thing that your Siri, for example, does is detect which language are we using, and based on that language, do like the interpretation. And on the other side, if you use OpenAI uses like word after word after word, and it analyzes each word separately. Well, separately and
it's a multilingual model.
Yeah, like you mean like the speech to text is on the word level, and on the Dutch is like it first determines the language and then it does text to speech, speech to text.
Wow, you lost me. Sorry.
Yeah, but I feel like I don't know. Me personally, I've heard my name being pronounced in many different ways, and every time if I have to, I mean, even if I'm talking to someone like, "Oh, what's your name?" I never say like Murilo, right? Like no one understands. No one knows Murilo.
What's the?
So I don't say it correctly either.
No, I mean correct. I think I've been away long enough that I've given up the idea of correctness.
You've never corrected me.
That's the thing. I can remember when I was in the US, like it's like one of the first classes, right? And the professors, they're trying to be super nice, you know. They're calling the names to see who's there, and they're like, Martha Murillo, and I was like, oh, I'm here. No, how do you pronounce it? Like, no, it's fine. No, I want to say how you say it. I was like, okay, it's Murillo. All right, Nick, who is like they just gave up, and I was like, yeah, it's fine. But my mother would say Murillo.
Murillo.
No.
Murillo.
How much time do we have? I don't think
That's okay.
But that's the thing. You know,
we'll take this offline.
Take this offline. But I think it's tricky, yeah. Especially there's some names in Brazil as well, like João, which is very hard for people that don't speak Portuguese.
Which letters were it?
It's like John in Portuguese.
Okay.
João.
Juan.
Yeah, kinda. But like people have a really hard time, right? And I can imagine that these models it's gonna be super difficult for them to pick it up. So I'm not that surprised about that. But yeah. Maybe one thing, I don't know if it's I think it's a bit of a hot topic. It's from one of our colleagues. I'm not gonna call them out. I'm not gonna put them on the spot. I'm not gonna throw them under the bus. But they weren't very positive about this partnership. They said like, oh yeah, I don't want to be hearing everyone talking to Siri on their phone all the time. And I was like, he wasn't very optimistic. He wasn't excited about this partnership, let's say, because in his eyes, he doesn't get excited about the possibility of talking to your phone.
Let's change, eh?
But isn't that everybody their own thing, right?
Yeah, I think that's the thing. I mean, again, we were very brief discussion about it, right?
Yeah.
And I think my position on this was, it's not that we're trying to create this new feature, right? The feature is there. Siri exists. It's just that it's not good.
But I think some people, like, I spend a lot of time in my car, and then I try to do as much hands-free via Siri.
Yeah,
and then I run into these things.
I think he agreed, like when I mentioned in the car.
I'm never sitting in my office and I'm saying, going like, hey Siri, please do this. But at the same time, like, if the capabilities would be there that I can say while I'm in the office, hey Siri, please find a slot for me and this person to meet next week on that day. If I could do that just orally and it works, I mean, I would immediately do it. I would be very excited about this.
Yeah, that's true.
I would use it a lot more if it would like create normal sentences, like with exclamation marks or question marks or stuff like that. And you can just speak with a certain intonation, it captures it, and it makes a real message.
Like when you send a text message.
Yeah,
I mean.
because like you said in the car, if you say something, you have to say, but.
Yeah, dot, exclamation mark, question mark. You need to explicitly say
WTF, question mark, question mark.
Funny face.
Wink emoji with tongue out, wink emoji with tongue out. You know, it's like, yeah, true. But I'm still waiting for the day that people are going to be at the office. Everyone's like, hi Siri, hi Siri, hi Siri. But one thing actually, like, and also I was thinking of your example of booking a slot. The thing that I'm waiting for LLMs to get better at is to ask follow-up questions, because most of the times they just do stuff. But I feel like in a realistic scenario, what you're saying, hey, can you book a meeting with me and Bart for Thursday whenever we're both available?
And that is where the Siri team comes in.
Yeah,
that's what they need to build.
Maybe, that's true. That's true. But I still feel like there needs to be okay, you don't have any matching slots. Should I book over something?
Yeah.
You know, maybe this meeting is the longest. Should I book over that? Or do you prefer the morning, afternoon? Like, I feel like that.
And then I would like Siri to work like this. Then I can say, don't bother me with these questions. Just get the shit done.
And it goes back to what it was. Bart's gonna like emotionally abuse the AI. You know?
Does AI have feelings?
You're gonna be like, Bart's gonna be driving. Hey, Siri, like, yeah, you know, what now? Just tell me. Okay. Everyone's getting on AI these days, even Raspberry Pi.
Maybe before making the switch, I think what I've also heard about this in this context, like people being negative about it, I think is also like the public image around OpenAI is changing. Like it used to be this new research frontier, good for humankind, and like we've seen a lot of examples in recent months where the commercial side is prioritized over the R&D and safety side. And I think this is also like it changes a little bit the public image. I think especially in the tech sector about OpenAI.
Maybe do you think that this is inevitable? This is kind of natural progression of things in a corporation, or do you think they got greedy or something? Like what changed in that? Because OpenAI indeed they were standing for the ideals and the openness and fairness.
It's hard to say. Yeah? This is the $1 million question. But I think like they state that the ethics around this, that safety around this is very important. But in let's say real life, what are they? They're a commercial company today. And that means that you need to make your shareholders happy, which means maximizing profits. And that quickly becomes a focus. And then probably like if you're very passionate, you're still going to spend some evening hours on ethics and safety. But like it very quickly devolves into this.
Yeah, that opens up the discussion, like who decided it.
Yeah.
Because as far as I know, Sam Altman didn't want to do it. He got like fired for it. And then suddenly we're like...
Didn't want to do what?
So like disregard all the ethics and like really focus on the really business and profitability.
He didn't want to double down on the profits.
Yeah, indeed. So yeah, the question again, who asked, who made the business?
And I think also the counter argument is always, yeah, okay, but they were like, it's not like they were not profitable, right? And they had to double down on the. So I think it's also like, okay, every company will value profits, right? It's the nature of the game. If you don't have profits, then you don't have a company, right?
And I don't know actually if OpenAI is profitable. Do they turn profit?
Really?
They're huge. I mean, they're burning cash.
Yeah, that's true.
Not sure if they're. Good question.
I don't think so.
Yeah,
They just raised like a whole lot of money to burn, so.
Interesting. But yeah, I think that's made the what do we need to do all this to stay to keep afloat, right? Like, do they need to double down that much? Like, there's always a line to be drawn, right? I guess that's the discussion here.
And I think what a lot of people also, because it started as a non-profit and then what as a commercial branch. I think there is also the argument to make, like the counter argument there, like if it would have remained a non-profit, they would never have been able to raise the amount of money they needed to get this rolling.
Yeah, true.
And this,
true. Yeah, it's usually like we have this helicopter view that's all nice and pretty, right? But then when you zoom in, it's never like that clear cut.
It's politics.
Yeah, indeed. But what we can all agree is that AI is hot. Everyone wants a piece of AI. Even Raspberry Pis. Is that right, Bart?
Raspberry Pis wants a piece of the pie, of the AI pie. Indeed. Don't have a lot of information about this, but I thought it was an interesting headline. But Raspberry Pis, like for the people that don't know it, it's like a very small microcomputer. Like you have basically when you buy this without a case, it's like a integrated CPU. You have like HDMI access points, USB-C. Costs around, depending on the type, like 50-ish euros, 60-ish euros.
Did the price drop again? Because it was super high for a long time due to the chip shortage.
Yeah, there was chip shortage. I think it dropped again. Yeah, okay. I'm not 100% sure. And now they have partnered with Hilo, a company I didn't know actually, to introduce an AI add-on, they call it, which I understand is a specific chipset to do some matrix calculations on, which would make the Raspberry Pi still very affordable. I think it's they aim it to be around $70, but that will allow to do local inference of AI models much more efficient than it currently does.
Which is interesting, right? Because I think today there's a lot of GenAI hype, but usually you cannot do this on the edge, right? So I think there is still big ways to go, right? To like, just because we can do these things doesn't mean you can do this on your phone, right? If you go on airplane mode and you talk to GPT 4.0, it's not going to work, right? Yeah. So I think this is also interesting.
In that way, it's also a little bit of a trend where you see producers of hardware like having more capabilities around AI, or basically what it comes down to is matrix calculations on their local hardware. Like Microsoft now announced their AI-powered laptops, for example, and you see these things coming to really local hardware. And for me, still a bit hard to see like what would be my use case for AI on a Raspberry Pi. Like need to start thinking like maybe like AI on the edge, image recognition, but like
could be cool for a home project, like connected to your home camera.
Yeah, and that is maybe like Raspberry Pi is also very much an educational tool.
Yeah.
So to play around with it, tinker with it, and learn how to build models, maybe.
Maybe you mentioned the Microsoft AI-powered computers. Have you seen the perfect recall AI feature?
Yeah.
Have you seen that? Christoph?
Yeah.
I didn't put this here, but I did come across this. Basically, it's like an AI feature that would they call it a perfect recall. The idea is that everything you can think of, you can just ask and the AI would fetch. But basically, it's like, I guess we'll like take screenshots.
Oh, yeah.
It would just be like...
And it would be safe because it's on your own computer.
But it's like super like sketchy. It's like super like Big Brother, like looking over your shoulders, right? And I think, there was a lot of negative backlash, but I'm surprised that they still announce these things. Huh?
Yeah, I think people are just a bit scared. Like, if it would be truly private, like truly private.
How do you know as well?
Yeah,
right?
that's the issue. Like, people just don't trust them.
If there would be no privacy issues, I would very much welcome it.
Yeah.
I often have like, oh shit, I ended up on that website and I still know a little bit, but I don't really remember anymore. I was doing this, and then I can just like with a few words. It was something with a book in the background, and it was about this topic. Mm-hmm. What website was this? Something like that.
Yeah, but then I guess we start to go again in the Black Mirror episode. You know, it's not. Have you seen that episode of Black Mirror that the people they have they record their eyesight, and then like they also show like before you go to a dinner party, and then you can rewind last time you saw that person, and you can be like, oh yeah, how's your husband? Oh yeah, how's this? But like people they don't know at all, but like they always have this. Because they can always go back and refresh their memory, they always have this expectation to really be up to date with what the person is doing. And then, it's a Black Mirror episode, so you can imagine what kind of turns it takes. But I think also the practical issue with this is like, even if they say, I guarantee that it's 100% safe, it doesn't leave your laptop.
Yeah, it's cool. No? You don't think so?
I think it's a bit
so how
it's freaky, but like a lot of stuff is freaky in the beginning.
How I understand this works, again, my understanding, not sure if I'm 100% correct, is that it takes a snapshot of your screen every X minutes. It makes an encoding out of this, so it becomes searchable. So it will, in the encoding, there will be a representation of, Murilo is here looking at this window, it looks like that, it's about this topic. And then afterwards you can search all these encoded vectors for something that you're interested in, and then that you will be able to link back to a snapshot to understand what you were doing, and even rewind to that snapshot.
I think there could be.
And it's actually like you don't need to wait for it. There are tools out there for it. So you have, for example, Wind Recorder for Windows. You have Rewind for macOS, which basically already does this. I think they're both open source, but I'm not 100% sure.
Rewind macOS.
So it's interesting to see this is happening, but indeed, like from the moment it's a hosted service, it becomes very privacy sensitive. Huh?
Yeah, I think so.
We've just had the Ticketmaster data breach last week. Millions of user data exposed. And you can say of course we're gonna treat your data safely, but something just has to happen, and then you have a lot of detailed information about what you were doing on your laptop at 10 o'clock in the evening out there.
Yeah, indeed. And I think it's also what if the regulations change, and what if their policy changes, and you still have the data and this and that. I think it's a bit freaky. But moving up, getting a bit back to the Raspberry Pis and AI, and NVIDIA also has done some work on the AI hardware. Is that correct, Bart? NVIDIA jumps ahead of itself and reveals next-gen Rubin AI chips in keynote release.
Yes. So there was a keynote by NVIDIA, I want to say yesterday, I'm not 100% sure, where they, a bit hesitantly, where the CEO of NVIDIA, what's his name again? Forgot his name. Basically already introduced the next generation of AI chips, following up a generation that has yet to come next year. So 2 months ago, I want to say, maybe even 3 months ago, they announced Blackwell, which is their next generation of AI chips, which I think will come out somewhere next year. And then the next generation is what they released, which they gave some information about on yesterday's keynote, is Rubin AI.
I like how even the quote is, "I'm not sure yet whether I'm going to regret this."
Yeah.
That's a great keynote.
That's a great keynote, yeah. So there's a lot happening there.
Maybe why did they explain, or did they speculate why they were jumping ahead of themselves in this case?
I don't know. I can only speculate. I think NVIDIA has been the front runner for a very, very, very long time.
Is there anyone catching up, really?
I don't think in practice. It always looks a bit like that, and then there's a new release from NVIDIA, and then everybody's behind again.
Yeah.
And this is maybe already to be a bit proactively say, okay, it's not when Blackwell is released that we're running. We already have very concrete plans on the next generation. That is,
Interesting. But to me, it's very puzzling. For me, this creates more questions than it answers, to be honest. It's You're already the leader. You already announced one thing. Why would you? In a keynote, like
I don't know.
in the way that it's put as well. But more on the tech corner, Bart. I have here Marker. So moving a bit away from AI. Whew, finally. Well, maybe we'll make a comeback. But while we're on the tech corner here, Bart, I see Marker. What is Marker?
A second. So we are doing a library a week too.
Keep the mind at peak.
Yeah.
You like that, Christoph?
I like it.
Bart Craig came up with this on the spot live. You can go back. It's true. He's a poet.
I'll use
Part-time poet.
Murilo told me that he forgot to prepare and asked me if I had an interesting library. So I went on GitHub Trending, and this was trending.
Okay, nice.
And it is actually something that I've frequently run into recently, especially with all the GenAI stuff that we're doing, is that you have a PDF document, and you want to turn it into readable text.
Yeah.
What I used to do, and I'm talking 2-3 years ago, that I used to turn this into plain text, where you have quite a few libraries available that very easily turn this into plain text for you. What I do today is I turn it into a JSON file, which retains much more metadata, like this text is on that position on that page. So you have this a bit more context to give to an LLM typically. And this is a library called Marker that turns your PDF very quickly to a markdown file.
And then you have all the context. The structure.
You have more structure, yeah. You have to you retain tables and stuff like this. But I think for a lot of cases, a lot of use cases, like this is as easy to do as to go from PDF to plain text. Here it goes from PDF to Markdown, but with Markdown, like it's a richer context than just plain text. And for a lot of use cases, it's rich enough, I think. So it's an interesting. Didn't know that this existed. So
yeah,
interesting.
I have just some examples here. So this is, maybe I'll just show very quickly. This is the PDF. This is Think Python, how to think like a computer scientist, and this is the converted. Think Python, how to think like a computer scientist.
So you've headers and.
All right. Looks pretty cool.
We're already gonna say thank you, Christoph, for joining us. He's gonna wiggle out.
Indeed,
very fun to be here.
Thanks for being here. Hope to see you back here some other time.
Maybe. Bye, guys. Good luck.
Cheers. Thank you.
So interesting. So yeah, you see the markup, like headers, bullet points, stuff like this.
This markup looks very nice. I wonder. I would like to see like a small snippet with a table or something, and also how do they deal with images. There's another example here. But it's a bit different.
And I think but this already gives a lot of context to the LLM model. Like what is this? How should I interpret this? Like this extra markdown, like bullet points, URLs. Like it is valuable for the context in an LLM model. I sometimes do this, for example, as well for if I scrape a web page, so an HTML page, which basically is XML, which is it's a lot, right? And it's expensive on your tokens. Yeah. So I sometimes turn HTML into Markdown before passing it to the LLM.
Yeah.
And you still have this important context on what are headers, what are bullet points, like this, stuff like this. It retains, but it removes all the other cruft.
Also, do you think it's better performance if it's Markdown instead of HTML?
I can't really judge it, to be honest. There are like the two arguments is like if you have HTML, which is XML, like you've way more context to understand like where is something on a page, for example. At the other side is that there are arguments to say that some models perform worse with a bigger input prompt.
Yeah, I feel like as long as I'm thinking very rationally here, right? But if you don't know what the HTML tags mean, it's going to be very hard to really understand how the actual layout is, right? Like it just kind of adds noise in a way.
I don't know. Bigger models, I would assume that they understand what HTML means.
Yeah, it depends a lot on the model, I would say as well, right? Yeah, cool. Switching gears a bit for the Signal EU market exit. What is Signal? So this is more of a
Signal is a text message application, like WhatsApp, like iMessage,
yes.
like
Maybe I can actually open up Signal here. Apparently, like the way I think of it, very simplistically, is like a WhatsApp, but it's privacy focused.
yes, I think that's maybe a way to describe it. And I think WhatsApp would say that they're privacy focused as well.
Yeah, but I think, is this even open source or no?
I'm not sure, to be honest.
Have you?
I think Telegram is open source. What is it? I'm not sure. But why are we putting this in the show notes? Is that there was a statement by the president of Signal App, Meredith Whittaker, on X. She says, "Let there be no doubt, we will leave the EU market rather than undermine our privacy guarantees. This proposal," and she means the chat control proposal by the EU, "if passed and enforced against us, would require us to make this choice. It's surveillance. It is surveillance wine and safety bottles."
I don't understand what the last sentence means.
I mean, but I think this is interesting, and I'm talking a bit about this with too much background, with not enough background knowledge. So what I understand is that the chat control proposal enforces a framework where peer-to-peer applications, texting applications like Signal, like WhatsApp, like whatever, they should allow for a backdoor for federal law agents from the moment that there is actually good arguments to do so.
So basically, all the things could be looked into as soon as there is reasonable arguments to do so by authorities.
Exactly, yeah.
It's very iffy, yeah? It's like...
I think, well, the counter-argument to that is that it's also super iffy to have such a major network where you can have all criminal activity that you want, and there is like zero, you can impose 000 control.
Yeah, I think it's the fear, I guess, is like once you open the door, right? Like once you just turn on the tap, you know, how you're going to control how much is going to come out of it, right? How people are not going to abuse it. I think in the US, like they had like, I mean, with the Edward, I don't know what's his name, Snowden guy, I think Edward Snowden, right? That he was a big time whistleblower, that they were saying how they also had something similar that was like under reasonable arguments, whatever, the CIA, what they could actually get access to your data, but then what they saw in practice is that this was heavily abused. Right? Everything was reasonable. Like, oh yeah, maybe. Oh yeah, okay, maybe let's take a look. You know, it was not very. What is enough reason for someone to go and look into your private information? What is reasonable for people to bring up as an argument to say, okay, we need to look into this person's private data?
Yeah. So I'm a bit biased here. So we've done some collaborations with federal agencies in multiple countries in the EU, and I know that it's not easy to do. Like, it's a very big process to get access to someone's data. It's not taken lightly. I don't think that we see today the same cases that we hear rumors about in the US.
Yeah, I do think that EU is set up differently, right? But,
probably. Can't really judge it.
But yeah, and what do you think about this move from Signal? Do you think it's a bad move? I mean, I also see their side if they want to be the privacy chat. That at least they're making these claims, right? Like whether they're gonna go through with it or not. But
well, I think the argument against it. Let's say there is no, like, it's fully peer-to-peer encrypted, and there's no way for government to have any control over criminals abusing this as their default communication method. Because you need to think about, like, do you want to be able to, from the moment that I know that you're a part of a very, very big drug or human trafficking organization, do you want to allow police with a good procedure, good governance, to allow them to tap into your communication to basically expose this whole network? Because that is the upside, huh?
Yeah. I think
that is the upside. And what we're saying what Signal is saying, we don't allow for this. We find privacy more important than that. And I think that is the, like, where are we at, right? And I think from the moment, you can also make the argument, like, if Signal should open up to this, like, if this gets enforced, they'll find another way. Sure, they'll find another way, but it is hard. Like, today, there is no barrier. Like, I install Signal from the App Store, and I just send whoever, and we will never be able to trace it.
Yeah.
Like, from the moment that I need to start using Tor networks and these type of things, like, you need some actual expertise on how do you send private messages, right? Like, there are ways around it, but it's way, way less accessible.
Yeah. No, I see your point there, and I think for that case, I think it's...
But those are the cases, I think, why it is important.
True. I think no one's going to disagree with you when you look at that.
I don't know.
For that particular case?
I think there are a lot of people like Signal that value privacy more than the ability to...
But to me, when I look at this statement, I don't think they're talking about, like, yeah, if you're in a private, like, if you're in a crime organization and there's an opportunity to really do good, very fluffily speaking, right?
But what you're saying is that at that point, you have arguments to say that that thing that is doing good is more valuable than privacy. And I think that is the discussion that is going on.
But yeah, again, maybe I'm wrong, but I would be very surprised if someone still says, no, privacy all the way, nothing beats privacy, even if it can do net good of this much.
Well, I think people also have this fear that they don't just think about that case, but also, like, it's a slippery slope. Like, if you open it up for this case, like, what is the future?
Exactly, and I think it's like, for that case, I think it's one end of a spectrum, let's say. But then what if, I don't know, you do some petty crime? Is this enough?
What are you planning to do?
No comment. But it's like, I think there's still a spectrum, and like, maybe like, okay, for this, is this enough and that enough, and who's gonna apply this? And I think it's not the what, it's more the how that I think some people are a bit more hesitant. Yeah. And I think in this case, I mean, again, I'm not sure if this is Signal stance, but that's what I would imagine the regular person would have a question mark, hesitance, or a problem with it, And again, I'm not super involved in this, but if done properly, I think most people agree that this is something to go forward with. Oh. And this is EU as well, eh?
This is EU.
So it's not like also how is it going to be applied in different countries in the EU?
But I, for one, prefer like this way, the EU way, where we say, let's create a framework around this, and then companies need to, via a democratic process, and then companies need to adhere to this framework. Where we have other examples in the US, where they suddenly say, yeah, but we don't really like TikTok. Let's ban TikTok. That sounds too ad hoc.
Yeah. I do think in the US is a bit more...
Like, you need to have, like, why don't you like maybe create a framework of things that are okay, that are not okay, or an edge case, and that's like, what do you need to actually comply to be a good actor?
Yeah. But I agree. I agree, and I think it's also, regardless of what the outcome, I do think it's important to have these discussions and keep having these discussions, right? Because things also change throughout time. One last topic here, tech debt. I have been personally thinking a bit about tech debt on my projects. I'm not contributing individually as much, but I am overlooking a bit more.
You're just creating debt.
I'm just creating debt, yeah. I'm just complaining there's too much debt. No, but I think it's like... So I read into this article as well that says reframing tech debt. It's a very short article. It's not really groundbreaking or anything, right? But they do two things that kind of struck me. Is one that they say like tech debt is a tool. So it's like how you should like... It's not bad or good. Like, it's something that like you need to know. It's like that, like when you're applying for a loan or something, right? It's a tool that you need to know how to manage. That really can be something very destructive if you don't use it well. But there are uses for it. And the other thing that they mentioned
just to understand, what are the uses of tech debt?
I think it's like maybe like when you don't know the whole context, right? So you can take a little shortcut, which you know is going to be a shortcut, but like you can get
creating technical debt. Okay, I see what you mean. Yeah.
So and they also mentioned this is one thing that struck me a bit. The other thing that struck me a bit is that they mentioned that managing it well a lot of the times is more of a cultural challenge than a technical one, right? It's more about prioritizing the right things, saying that we value this or where do we draw the line, and also dealing with if you go to a code base that has a lot of technical debt, however you define it. Usually, I mean, just for the people that don't know what technical debt is, the idea is, most people think of it as code that you don't want to touch, right? Things that now, if you really want to fix it and make everything the way it should be, quote unquote, it's going to take a lot of work and it's not going to deliver value directly, right? But they do mention, like, also if you go into a code base that you feel like there's a lot of tech debt, put a lot of air quotes here, to also assume good intentions, to like the context that you have today is not the same context that people had when they first wrote the code. Also understand the organization changed, the requirement changes. Something that today is a quick fix, tomorrow won't, like, may be different, right? So there's a bit of a cultural aspect here. And what I wanted to ask you, Bart, is how do you see, like, when you talk about tech debt, is this something, like, how do you approach it? Do you draw lines? Do you have guidelines? Do you try to measure it somehow? Do you think that as long as it works, it's fine? Or is this something that if you were leading a team, something that would be in the forefront of your mind?
So technical debt is difficult because it's a little bit of a vague concept, right?
Yeah.
Like you could argue, I'm working on let's say my team is working on a TypeScript-based application. Everything is up to date. A week later, like 50% of your libraries are outdated. You could argue like that is technical debt.
Yeah, but I think that's like inevitable technical debt in a way, right? Because
it's inevitable, yeah.
Your dependencies can always be outdated. Can always get outdated.
Yeah, I'd like to think a bit. I think it comes from lean principles, like the activities that you're doing as a team, like are they value adding, and that means like to the end user, like if you're building an application, like does this bring something extra to the end user? I think then that brings a lot of value. Like that's value adding. I think you also have non-value adding activities, and you can categorize them a bit like this is something that you probably should not do. This is waste. Like we're doing it just because it became a thing to do somewhere. Like, but actually it doesn't bring value to anyone or anything. And you have like necessary waste activities, like necessary non-value adding stuff. And I think technical debt, as long as it doesn't impact user impact.
Maybe you mentioned like the things that don't add value, and I think I know what you mean.
Yeah.
But I think for someone that doesn't know what you mean, that can be very confusing. Like, why do you do stuff?
Let's take a simple example. Like I have a TypeScript-based application, and my libraries are out of date.
Yeah.
I'm gonna take an activity to make sure that everything is up to date again, everything works. For the end user, I didn't create any value. Like there's not that the application does anything extra or anything better or the user experience better. Like nothing changed.
Yeah.
But so I didn't add value to the applications, but I did something that was necessary.
Yeah.
You could argue.
Yeah. So it's not like the value adding is really towards the user, right? Like the user is not going to see a new feature.
No.
He's not going to see improvement on speed maybe, but like maybe now that you have the latest, you can have more features.
Yeah. And I think that is like an important realization. Like there are these two types of things, like value adding and non-value adding.
Yeah.
And to already make that distinction for yourself when you're planning work. And then for the non-value adding stuff, that you also challenge yourself, like, is this something that is actually necessary? Or is this just switching to a new technology because that is today the hype and that is the cool thing to do?
Yeah.
Because then maybe that is like the last category, it's non-value adding and it's actually waste because it doesn't bring anything. Or you have the argument like need to switch to this new technology because the community for that other one is declining and like the support will be less and like we really need to go there.
Yeah, I see.
That is,
yeah, I think also the value adding thing I also came across when people were discussing productivity, how to measure productivity. And they said, well, the first is measuring ROI, but it's a bit tricky to really measure ROI. So then you have approximate ROI, and then if you don't have that either, then actually measuring value adding tasks versus non-value adding tasks. And the idea is like if you're spending most of your time on value adding tasks, then you're very productive. And I think for me, when I was reading this and what I was thinking is sometimes you have deadlines and you take some shortcuts. And I think you make some decisions that are very much value adding, but you know that decision will create work later that is non-value adding.
because you create a shortcut
Exactly.
and it creates value for the end user.
Yeah. So for example, I don't know, in your TypeScript project or maybe in your Python project, you don't pin your dependencies, right? And you're like, I'm not gonna worry about that, all this dependency management, all these things, whatever. Just so I can ship faster. And you ship faster. So in a way, if you decrease the time and you ship a new feature, it's better. But then you know that you're probably gonna have issues with it later. Something that you know, like, but I still need to do this at some point. I still need to pin my dependencies. I still need to figure it out, right? So to me, that's a bit like, and we always have deadlines, right? We always need to make progress. But to me, it's like how much am I willing to quote unquote sacrifice to keep moving that speed, or should I slow things down? Or for example, maybe you have one developer that is working alone and no one's even looking at the code. But if the person leaves the company, then then out of nowhere you have a huge gap, right? Now someone needs to take up the code, the person's not there, and maybe you want to put some reviews there, but then that also slows you down, right? So it's like, this is maybe not tech debt in the definition, but it is like decisions that you make that reduce the amount of value that you add over time, but at the same time you are safeguarding for the future, let's say. And to me, it's like, maybe there's not one answer, right? Like, this is how much.
But I think what you're saying a bit is like, you should not only do the value adding stuff, but also the non-value adding that is necessary.
Yeah, and I think it's like,
and you need to prioritize that in a healthy way.
Yeah, and maybe also it's like what's the maybe it's okay to take a few shortcuts, right? Or maybe you don't have to have everything 100%, but there should be a line.
But I think also what is not that easy when it comes to prioritizing these things when you work with a large engineering team is that, and maybe exaggerating stuff here, but like your typical engineer maybe sometimes focus a bit too much on the lines of code versus what it actually brings to the end user.
Yeah, I agree.
And like the definitions of what is value adding, like you should not keep in mind like value adding is what is value adding for the end user. And there are other activities that maybe are very important.
Yeah.
That you need to prioritize somewhere in between as well.
Yeah.
But they might not be value adding to the end user. And like that categorization, I think, is an important one.
Yeah, that's true. And I mean, like you said, you can have something value adding for the other developers, right? The developer experience is better, but that's not really value adding to the end user.
Take a simple example. I find it important that there's a linting tool on the application that we're building with this virtual team, hypothetical team.
Yeah.
This is not value adding.
Yeah, it's
like
not.
It doesn't do anything for the end user. But
exactly.
It's non-value adding, but we do find it necessary. So we need to schedule it into our priority somewhere.
Indeed, and I think like things like that, and this is a concrete example, but I think we can also come up with other examples, right?
Exactly.
Is this something you want to say, I'm going to enforce it? Because some people are going to say, well, this linting tool is slowing me down because it's asking me to add type hints everywhere, right? And I think for me, it's like, it's always, what I'm always kind of debating is like, okay, this is something that I want to pay down now and not have this thing that could become a mess that if someone needs to change, then now it's like, whoa, what is this? What is that? Oh, we need to, okay, and I feel like that's a bit the trade-offs, and that's, when I read this and I read about the productivity article, I think those are the kind of questions that come to my head. And I was just curious, like, how you see this as well. But yeah, I feel like, I don't know if that was also a answer as well. I think also different contexts will require a different amount of focus, but there you have it.
Last point?
Shoot.
We're working on a newsletter.
Ah, yeah, we are working on a newsletter. That is true.
We're working on a newsletter. Bit of context there. So this is very much an experiment. So
set your expectations.
It might never happen.
No, you mentioned on the podcast. No, it has to happen.
No, I'm explicitly saying it might never happen. Then everything's fine.
No, but like, it's a one-way door. Once you create expectations, all our thousands of listeners are now going to be eagerly waiting.
But what happens, like in the preparation for the podcast, like we scroll a bit the webs that are out in the World Wide Webs.
Yes.
For interesting articles, we put them in our draft of our show notes before that we go live, and we go over these things.
Most of the times before, sometimes before.
And what actually we did in the last week is that we made a bit of a crawler that crawls all these news sources and actually already prepares a draft for us. using some LLM technology with a lot of specific prompting, but it creates a first draft for us that we still need to fine tune a little bit. And while we were working on it, it was actually, we were thinking like, oh, maybe it's actually cool that we just turn this into a newsletter and like a subset of these topics we will touch upon during the podcast. And when we release the audio version of the podcast, we release it together with a newsletter.
Yes. So I guess it's like we can think of it as us discussing a bit more the highlights.
Yeah.
We have a TLDR, but if you're curious, you want to know what else happened in the world of data and AI, then you also have the companion newsletter there.
And I think having had a look at the draft, it's a very good newsletter to scroll to the headlines and know like, this happened last week, because it's a field where there is so much news coming out every week. And this allows you like to skim all the headlines like per category and to know a little bit like, okay, this is interesting, this I need to read more in more detail. So it's a tool in your toolbox to keep up to speed.
Cool. So yeah, indeed, if you want to be a newsletter friend of the show, well, stay tuned. I think it's time to call it. I think, someone is hungry.
My stomach is acting up. Okay.
Alrighty.
Thanks everybody for listening.
Thanks Bart's stomach for wanting to make an audio soundbite of this.
You have a taste in a way that's meaningful to software people.
Hello, I'm Bill Gates.
For a second, I thought it was mine.
I would recommend TypeScript. Yeah, it writes a lot of code for me, and usually it's slightly wrong.
I'm reminded, incidentally, of Rust here.
Rust.
This almost makes me happy that I didn't become a supermodel.
Cooper and Netties.
Well, I'm sorry, guys. I don't know what's going on.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you today about large neural networks. It's really an honor to be here.
Rust.
DataTopics.
Welcome to the Data.
Welcome to the DataTopics podcast.